My mom helped my sister steal my boyfriend and ruin my life, so I exposed their dark secret. And it turned their whole world upside down. My name is Emily. I'm a 29-year-old female, and this is the story of how my entire world fell apart when I was just 19. Back then, life was pretty good, or at least I thought it was. It was around the holidays, which usually meant I'd get to see all my family. But this particular Christmas, everything just fell apart. So, picture this. I was dating this guy named Nick. He was my first real boyfriend, and I thought we were pretty solid. You know how it is with your first love. You just assume it's going to last forever. We'd been together for almost 2 years, and yeah, I was crazy about him. I was that girl who thought, oh, we're going to get married, have kids, and live happily ever after. I had no reason to doubt him because he always seemed so committed to me. Then there's my older sister, Claire. She's 2 years older than me and was kind of like my role model growing up. I looked up to her for basically everything. She was smart, popular, and just had her life together, or so I thought. We used to hang out a lot, too. So, when Nick and I started dating, I introduced him to her pretty early on because, I wanted them to like each other. Big mistake, but I'll get to that in a minute. So, fast forward to Christmas. My family had this big get-together planned, but the vibe was weird from the start. I couldn't put my finger on it, but something felt off, especially with Claire. She was acting kind of distant, and Nick was being, I don't know, sketchy, like just not himself. My gut was telling me something was up, but I didn't want to believe it. I mean, you don't expect your own sister to be shady, right? Anyway, a few days after Christmas, I found out exactly what had been going on. And when I say found out, I mean I literally walked in on them. Yeah. I walked into Claire's room to borrow her hair straightener or something. And there they were, Nick and my sister making out like two teenagers at prom. My heart just stopped. It was one of those moments where time kind of freezes, Like you can't believe what your eyes are seeing. I didn't even say anything at first. I just stood there staring at them, trying to process what was happening. I mean, what do you even say in a situation like that? They didn't notice me for a good few seconds, but then Nick looked up and froze. Claire did, too. And the look on her face. She looked like a deer in headlights. There was no denying what was going on. It was right there in front of me, my boyfriend and my sister. I just remember feeling this wave of anger, sadness, and shock all at once. My chest felt tight, and I thought I was going to throw up. I managed to choke out something like, "Are you serious?" And then I just bolted out of the house. I didn't know where I was going. I just needed to get out of there. My mind was racing, and my heart was shattered. The two people I trusted the most had stabbed me in the back, and I didn't know how to handle it. Later that night, my parents found me. I'd been sitting in my car for what felt like hours, just crying and trying to make sense of everything. When they knocked on my window, I thought, finally, they're here to comfort me. But no, they didn't. Instead, they told me to calm down and think rationally. Rationally? Seriously? They tried to convince me that these things happen and it's just a guy. But it wasn't just about Nick. It was about Claire, my sister, betraying me in the worst way possible. They kept saying things like, family is family. You have to forgive her. Like, what the hell? How was I supposed to forgive her for this? I was furious. I felt like I had been tossed aside. Like my feelings didn't even matter. It got even worse when Claire had the nerve to come to me and say, "I'm sorry, but we didn't mean to hurt you. Nick and I just have feelings for each other." Feelings for each other? Are you kidding me? They'd been sneaking around behind my back and now they were in love. I couldn't even look at her. I told her she was dead to me and that I never wanted to see her again. And I meant it. But of course, my parents weren't having it. They kept pushing the whole family forgiveness thing, saying I was being dramatic. My dad actually told me to grow up. My own dad. It felt like I was losing my entire family in one go. I couldn't believe they were siding with her. It was like I didn't matter at all. I'd lost my boyfriend, my sister, and now my parents, too. I was alone. For months, I didn't know how to cope. I was depressed and just numb. I stopped talking to everyone. I'd go to work, come home, and just stay in bed. I'd cry until I couldn't anymore. The only person I really had during that time was my best friend, Sam. She was the one who made sure I was eating, made sure I was getting out of bed, but it wasn't enough. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was worthless, like maybe they were right, and I was just being dramatic. Eventually, it all got too much for me. One night, I just broke. I didn't see a way out of the pain and I thought the only way to make it stop was to end it. So, I wrote this long letter explaining everything about Claire, about Nick, about how betrayed I felt by everyone. And I scheduled it to post on Tumblr after I was gone. Then, I swallowed a bunch of pills, laid down, and just waited for it all to be over. But Sam, being the amazing person she is, found me. She called 911, and I guess they got to me just in time because I woke up in the hospital the next morning. I was groggy and confused, but I was alive. They put me on suicide watch after that. And honestly, it was the best thing for me at the time. I needed help. I needed to be away from everything and everyone who had hurt me. My grandparents were the only ones who visited me while I was there. Not my parents, not Claire, just my grandparents. They didn't try to force me to forgive anyone. They just sat with me, let me talk, and actually listened. They saved me in more ways than one. They picked me up when I got discharged and took me to live with them. I cut off everyone else. And for the first time in months, I felt like maybe I could start to heal. So after I got out of the hospital, like I said before, my grandparents took me in. I can't even explain how grateful I am for them. They didn't try to force anything. Didn't push me to talk about stuff if I wasn't ready. They were just there for me. I was still struggling a lot mentally, but for the first time, I felt like I had some kind of support system. But even though I was safe and in a better environment, the fallout from everything was just getting started. See, I had completely cut off my parents and Claire. I blocked them on everything. Facebook, Instagram, my phone, all of it. I didn't want to hear a single word from them. I was done. They didn't care about me when I needed them. So, why should I bother? But while I was trying to heal and move on, my best friend Sam was out there pissed off on my behalf. She was fuming about what happened and wasn't going to let them off the hook so easily. I didn't know it at the time, but Sam was planning her own little revenge. One day, out of nowhere, she texted me like, I did something, but I think you'll like it. And I was like, what did you do? She goes, don't be mad, but I shared your note, the one you posted on Tumblr. I made sure everyone saw it. I was kind of shocked at first. Like, I didn't want to air my dirty laundry to the world, you know? But the more I thought about it, the more I was like, screw it. If they didn't care about how they made me feel, why should I care if people know what they did? And when I say Sam shared it, I mean she tagged my parents, Claire, and Nick in the post and called them out. She went full savage. The post went viral within our little circle. Sam had over 1,000 friends on Facebook and people started sharing it like crazy. I had no idea how many people knew about what happened until I started getting texts from random high school friends, old coworkers, even people I barely knew. Everyone was coming out of the woodwork to tell me how messed up my family was, how much they felt for me, and how they couldn't believe Claire and Nick did what they did. But that wasn't even the craziest part. It wasn't just people I knew who were mad. It was people they knew. My mom had this reputation in her church as being this perfect wholesome lady. And when people in her congregation saw what happened, they were furious. They actually kicked her out of the church. Like straight up told her she wasn't welcome anymore because of how she treated me. Imagine getting excommunicated from your own church over something like that. I heard she tried to apologize or explain herself, but nobody wanted to hear it. She got labeled a hypocrite and that was it for her social life. My dad, he lost a ton of his friends, too. They were disgusted by how he sided with Claire and how he told me to just get over it. Some of his closest friends just straight up cut him off. People saw him as this cold, heartless guy and they didn't want to be associated with him anymore. And Claire, oh man, Claire got it the worst. I don't even know how she managed to leave the house after what Sam posted. People were calling her a homewrecker, a backstabber, you name it. Some of her closest friends ditched her, said they didn't want anything to do with someone who would betray their own sister like that. I heard she got into arguments with people in public, like at the grocery store, because people would recognize her and call her out. I'm not going to lie, part of me was happy to hear she was getting what she deserved. It was like the universe was finally giving her a taste of what she'd done to me. Nick wasn't off the hook either. His family is super religious, like go to church every Sunday religious. And when they found out what he'd been doing with Claire behind my back, they freaked. His parents sent him away to some retreat or something to find God again. He was gone for months, and when he came back, he and Claire had broken up. I don't know the details, but I can guess he probably couldn't handle all the backlash, and it drove a wedge between them. Good riddance. During all of this, I was just trying to focus on myself. My grandparents had gotten me into therapy, and I was starting to make some progress. It was slow, but I was getting there. I wasn't interested in what was going on with my family or how miserable they were. At least that's what I told myself. But deep down, hearing about how their lives were falling apart kind of felt like justice, like they finally understood what they put me through. It was messed up. But I'd be lying if I said it didn't feel good. One day though, my grandma sat me down and said, "Your mom tried to call. She wants to talk." I just rolled my eyes. Why would I want to talk to her now? She didn't care before, so why does she care now? My grandma just nodded and said, I know, honey, but I wanted you to know. I thought about it for a second. Was I curious? Yeah, a little. Did I care enough to actually reach out? Absolutely not. My mom had made her bed, and now she had to lie in it. I wasn't about to give her the satisfaction of thinking she could just come back into my life after everything she did. It wasn't just my mom trying to reach out, either. Claire had sent me a message on Instagram. Yeah, I forgot to block her there. She was trying to apologize, saying how sorry she was and how she never meant to hurt me. I didn't even read the whole message. I just deleted it and blocked her. I had nothing to say to her. In my eyes, she was still dead to me. After that, things started to quiet down. The frenzy around Sam's post eventually died down and people stopped talking about it, but the damage was done. My parents were basically social pariahs. Claire had to move to another town because she couldn't handle the constant reminders of what she'd done. Nick was gone out of my life for good. And honestly, I was fine with that. Living with my grandparents was the best thing that could have happened to me. They gave me space to heal. And they didn't pressure me to forgive anyone. I started to feel like myself again, like I could actually move on from everything. But I wasn't naive. I knew the pain of what my family had done would always be there somewhere in the background. It was like a scar. It would fade over time, but it would never fully go away. I didn't need them, though. I had my grandparents. I had Sam. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was building a life that was actually mine. So, after everything went down and the dust started to settle, you'd think life would just go back to normal, right? But it didn't. Not even close. I was living with my grandparents, which was honestly the best thing that could have happened. But the whole mess with my family and Claire still weighed on me. I guess you don't just move on from that kind of betrayal easily. My therapist was really helpful during this time. She wasn't some miracle worker or anything, but she helped me figure out how to process the anger and sadness without letting it eat me alive. It's weird because even though I had completely cut my parents and Claire off, they still found ways to creep back into my thoughts. I would randomly start thinking, how could they do this to me? How could my own family choose her over me? Even when I didn't want to care, it was always there. You know, it's hard to explain. I tried to focus on rebuilding my life. I got a new job, met some new friends, and even started going back to school part-time. For a while, I was just doing whatever I could to distract myself. I wasn't trying to deal with any of the feelings I had toward my family. I thought that if I just kept myself busy, maybe I could forget about it all. But yeah, that's not how things work. So, one night, I was scrolling through Instagram just mindlessly like you do, and I stumbled on a post from one of my cousins. I hadn't really kept in touch with that side of the family since everything blew up. But curiosity got the better of me. I clicked on the picture and there it was, a family reunion. Everyone was there smiling, having a great time. Everyone except me. Now, don't get me wrong, it wasn't like I wanted to be at that reunion. There's no way in hell I would have gone, even if they begged me. But seeing that picture made me realize just how much I'd been cut out of their lives. It was like I didn't exist anymore. My family had gone on without me, and they didn't seem to care. It was like I'd been erased. That hit me harder than I thought it would. I ended up venting to Sam about it the next day and she was like, screw them. You're better off without people like that. You've got your own life now. And she was right. I knew that. But still, it stung. I didn't even realize how much I still cared until I saw that stupid Instagram post. It wasn't that I wanted to be close to them again. It was more that I couldn't believe how easily they had moved on, like nothing ever happened. But things got weirder after that. About a week later, my dad called. Yeah, my dad. The same one who told me to grow up and take back Claire after everything she'd done. I didn't pick up obviously. I let it go to voicemail. And when I listened to it later, he was basically begging me to talk. He said stuff like, we've been thinking about you and we miss you and want to make things right. For a second, I thought about calling him back, but then I remembered what happened the last time I tried to talk to them. The gaslighting, the guilt trips, the way they made me feel like I was the problem for not forgiving Claire. I couldn't go through that again, so I blocked his number. After that, my mom tried reaching out, too. She sent this long email about how she was sorry for everything and wanted to rebuild our relationship. The funny thing is, she never actually apologized for anything specific. It was all vague stuff like, I'm sorry you feel hurt and we're family and we need to come together. It didn't feel real at all. Like she just wanted to smooth things over without taking any responsibility. I didn't respond. I didn't even bother reading the whole thing to be honest. I just forwarded it to my therapist and deleted it. I knew if I let myself engage with them again, I'd just fall back into the same toxic dynamic. And I was finally starting to get my life together. I wasn't about to let them pull me back down. It's crazy how much cutting off toxic people can change your life. Once I finally let go of the idea that my family would ever be there for me, things started to get better. I mean, it wasn't perfect or anything. I still had bad days, but I was free. No more worrying about what they thought of me. No more bending over backwards to make them happy. It was just me living my life, doing my own thing. But then something happened that really messed with my head. One day, I was at the grocery store just minding my business. And who do I run into? Claire. Yeah, Claire. I hadn't seen her in over a year, and I didn't plan on it either, but there she was standing in the produce section looking just as shocked as I was. We just kind of stood there staring at each other for a minute. I was about to turn around and walk out, but then she came over to me. She started talking really fast like she was desperate to get everything out before I could leave. She was crying, saying how much she regretted everything, how she missed me, how her life had fallen apart since I cut her off. Honestly, I didn't know what to say. I was angry, but I also felt this weird sense of pity for her. She looked terrible, like life had really knocked her down. She kept saying, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry." Over and over, but it didn't really matter. It was too late. There was nothing she could say to make it right. I just stood there letting her ramble until I finally said, "I don't hate you, but I don't want you in my life either." And then I walked away. She didn't try to stop me. She just stood there crying while I left. It was weird because I thought that seeing her would make me angrier, but it didn't. If anything, it made me realize how far I'd come. I wasn't that sad, broken person anymore. Claire and my parents didn't have any power over me now. I was done with them for good this time. After that, I didn't think about Claire or my parents as much. It was like that last encounter gave me the closure I didn't even know I needed. I moved on with my life. And yeah, it's still not perfect, but it's mine now. I'm in control. I've got my grandparents, my friends, and that's all I need. If my family wants to fix things, that's on them. But as far as I'm concerned, they're not a part of my life anymore. And honestly, I'm okay with that. So, after running into Claire at the grocery store and walking away from her, I thought I'd finally close the door on all that family drama. I was moving on, focusing on my own life, and just trying to live without all that mess hanging over me. I mean, I wasn't really thinking about them much anymore, which felt like a win in itself. But then something happened that threw everything back into my face. It was a regular Friday night. I was just chilling at home with Sam, watching some random Netflix show and eating takeout when I got this weird call from an unknown number. Now, normally I wouldn't even bother answering unknown numbers, but something in me just said, pick it up. So, I did. On the other end was this guy. He was kind of shaky and didn't introduce himself right away, which immediately made me think it was a scam or some telemarketer. But then he says, "Hey, it's Nick." Nick, as in my ex. I hadn't heard from him in years. Not since his family shipped him off to find Jesus or whatever after the whole thing with Claire. I didn't even know what to say. Part of me wanted to just hang up, but curiosity got the better of me. So, I'm like, "What the hell do you want?" He hesitates for a second and then goes, "I need to talk to you. It's important." Important? After all this time, I wasn't buying it. But before I could tell him to screw off, he starts going on about how his life has been a mess since everything happened. How he regrets what he did and how he wants to apologize properly. I could hear the desperation in his voice. And for a split second, I felt bad for him. But then I remembered how much he'd hurt me, how much they'd both hurt me. And I just wasn't in the mood to reopen that wound. I told him, "Look, Nick, I've moved on. I don't care about your apology. Whatever happened between you and Claire, or whatever regrets you have, that's on you. I don't want anything to do with it." I was ready to hang up when he said something that made me freeze. He said, "It's not just about me and Claire. There's something you don't know." I was like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "I'm not the only one who betrayed you, your family. There's more to the story." Now, at this point, I didn't even want to believe him. I thought he was just trying to drag me back into the drama, but something in his voice, the way he said it, it didn't feel like a lie. Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet up with him the next day. I don't know why. Maybe part of me needed to hear whatever it was he had to say just to get full closure. Or maybe I was just curious. Either way, I was about to walk into something I wasn't prepared for. The next day, we met up at a coffee shop. I hadn't seen Nick in so long. And when I did, he looked different, like life had chewed him up and spit him out. He was thinner, had bags under his eyes, and just looked worn down. Part of me wanted to feel sorry for him, but the other part remembered how he betrayed me. So, I kept my guard up. We sat down and there was this really awkward silence for a minute. I could tell he didn't know how to start. Finally, I was like, "You said there's something I don't know, so just say it." He took a deep breath and started talking. And what he told me, well, it completely blindsided me. Apparently, my parents knew about Nick and Claire way before I found out. They'd known for months, maybe even longer. And not only did they know, but they actually approved of it. My mom had encouraged Claire to go after Nick because she thought we weren't compatible or whatever. She thought Claire would be a better match for him and that I was being clingy with Nick. My own mother had been playing matchmaker behind my back, trying to set my boyfriend up with my sister. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I felt like the room was spinning. I interrupted him like, "Wait, are you saying my mom was okay with you cheating on me with my sister?" He nodded, looking down at his hands, and said, "Yeah, I didn't want to go along with it at first, but Claire kept pushing, and your mom kept saying it was for the best. I know that doesn't excuse anything, but I didn't think you'd find out." I just sat there staring at him, my mind racing. All this time, I thought the betrayal was just between Nick and Claire. I had no idea my mom had been orchestrating the whole thing behind the scenes. I felt like such an idiot. How could I have missed that? How could I have thought my parents were just passive in all of this? Nick kept talking, saying how he regretted it and how he wished he'd never gone along with it. But I wasn't listening anymore. I was too busy trying to process what he just told me. My own family, my own mom, had sabotaged my relationship because she thought Claire was better for Nick than I was. Eventually, I cut him off. I didn't need to hear anymore. I thanked him for telling me and walked out of the coffee shop. My mind was spinning and I felt like I was going to explode. I couldn't believe how deep the betrayal went. It wasn't just about Nick and Claire anymore. It was about my whole family being in on it, watching me fall apart and doing nothing to stop it, actually encouraging it. When I got home, I sat in my car for a long time just thinking. I wanted to scream, to punch something, to do anything to let out the anger I was feeling. But instead, I just sat there numb. I didn't know what to do. Part of me wanted to confront my parents, to blow up at them and demand answers. But the other part of me knew it wouldn't make a difference. They'd just gaslight me again, tell me I was overreacting like they always did. I didn't know what my next move would be. All I knew was that this betrayal went way deeper than I ever imagined. And the people I thought I could never trust again had somehow managed to hurt me even more. So, after I found out my own mother had been behind the whole thing with Claire and Nick, I felt like I was living in a bad movie. I couldn't sleep that night. I kept replaying everything in my head. The betrayal, the lies, the manipulation. I mean, who does that to their own kid? It wasn't just about a guy anymore. This was about my entire family. My own mother actively trying to screw me over and thinking it was okay. I woke up the next morning feeling like I was going to explode. I didn't care about moving on or staying calm anymore. I was pissed and I needed answers. So, I did what I knew I probably shouldn't. I drove over to my parents' house. I hadn't been there since I'd cut them off, but I couldn't just sit around anymore. I needed to know why. When I got there, I didn't even bother knocking. I had a key, so I just let myself in. My parents were in the kitchen making breakfast like it was any other day, completely unaware of the bomb that was about to drop. They looked shocked to see me, especially my mom. My dad kind of gave me this awkward smile like he wasn't sure if he should be happy I was there or scared. I didn't waste time on small talk. I just blurted it out. "Did you know about Claire and Nick? Did you set them up?" My mom's face went pale. She didn't answer right away, and I could see the gears turning in her head, trying to figure out how to spin this. My dad looked confused, like he didn't even know what I was talking about. But my mom, she knew. "Why does that matter now?" she finally said, trying to brush it off like it was no big deal. I lost it. I slammed my hand down on the table and shouted, "Why does it matter? Are you serious? You ruined my life. You stood by and watched while I was falling apart, and you did nothing. You let Claire and Nick hurt me because you thought it was for the best." My dad's face changed when I said that. He looked at my mom like he was piecing it together, like he hadn't known the full story either. "What is she talking about?" he asked her. My mom tried to calm me down. She started talking in that condescending voice she always used when she thought I was being dramatic. She said, "You were too attached to Nick. It wasn't healthy. I thought if Claire was with him, you'd finally see that he wasn't right for you. I didn't mean to hurt you. I was doing what was best for you." That's when it clicked for me. She didn't even think she'd done anything wrong. In her mind, she was helping me by destroying my relationship and pushing Nick toward Claire. She wasn't apologetic. She wasn't sorry. She was justifying it like she was some kind of hero in this twisted story she'd written. I turned to my dad and asked, "Did you know?" He looked at me, then at her, and said, "No, I didn't. I had no idea she was involved." He looked like he was about to be sick. It was like I'd punched him in the gut. At this point, I didn't even care anymore. There was no excuse that could make any of this okay. I was done trying to understand. My mom kept talking, trying to explain how she was just looking out for me and doing what she thought was best, but I wasn't listening. All I could think about was how I'd spent so many months hating Claire and Nick when the real mastermind behind all of it was sitting right in front of me the whole time. "I can't believe you," I said, cutting her off mid-sentence. "You didn't care about what was best for me. You just wanted control. You've always wanted control. And now, because of you, I lost everything." I could see that my dad was starting to get angry, too. He stood up and said, "Why didn't you tell me any of this? Why would you go behind my back like that?" But my mom was still stuck in her own little world defending herself. "I didn't think it mattered," she said. "Claire was better for Nick, and I was trying to protect our family. I couldn't take it anymore." I told her straight up, "You didn't protect anything. You destroyed it. I will never forgive you for this ever." And with that, I walked out of the house. I could hear my dad yelling at her as I left, but I didn't stick around to hear the rest. I was done. Done with all of it. On the drive back, I felt weirdly calm. I think I'd expected to feel more, I don't know, relieved, like confronting her would give me some kind of closure, but it didn't. If anything, it just solidified what I'd already known. I couldn't trust my family. Not my mom, not even my dad at this point. They weren't the people I thought they were, and they never would be. When I got back to my grandparents' place, I told them everything. They were shocked, but not surprised, if that makes sense. They'd always had their suspicions about my mom, but they hadn't wanted to interfere. They were supportive, though. My grandpa gave me a hug and said, "You did the right thing by confronting her, but you don't owe them anything. You've got your own life to live now." And he was right, I did have my own life to live. I'd spent so long being angry and hurt, but at the end of the day, the only thing I could do was move forward. I couldn't change what my family did, but I could change how much space I let them take up in my head. I haven't talked to my parents since that day. My dad sent me a couple of texts trying to apologize, but I never replied. As for Claire, I haven't seen or heard from her since that day in the grocery store. And Nick, he's just a ghost from my past now. Someone I don't think about anymore. What I've realized through all of this is that sometimes the people who are supposed to love you the most can hurt you in ways you never expected. But that doesn't mean you have to let them keep hurting you. I've built my own life now, surrounded by people who actually care about me. My grandparents, my friends, Sam, they're my real family. They're the ones who stuck by me when everything fell apart. And now I'm finally at peace. It took a long time and it wasn't easy, but I'm okay with where I am. My family might still be out there living their lives, but I'm living mine, too.